Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
I'm here in Miami.
I answered the phone when Danielle called because I know she's in Miami, and if I don't talk to her, she's not gonna leave me alone.
And I wanted to say you'll meet with me tomorrow.
And why are you coming to me? Why do you want to meet me here?
Because we have some things that we need to talk about.
Now, we all understand that stalking is not okay and that using blackmail is not okay. And I think it's easy for us to look at men who stalk women and be very concerned about that. But we need to be equally concerned about women who stalk men. And it's something that isn't talked about, and it happens. I've had many clients come to me, on both sides of the coin, by the way, who have exhibited this kind of behavior. Men aren't the only ones who have fantasies or entitlement or are prone to disorganized thinking and will pursue someone against all evidence that it's worth doing. And it's terrifying. Now, we can look at this situation and say, well, you know, Danielle, she's harmless. What's she going to do? I can tell you from experiencing this both professionally and personally that when you see someone acting like the way Danielle is, and behind closed doors, there's a lot more of it, right? As a victim of the stalking, you don't know what the person is capable of because they've already crossed the line into weird land. And when someone crosses a line into weird land, you don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to kill you? Are they going to file a false police report against you? I mean, they're willing to go that far, then they're willing to do other kinds of things. And sometimes they'll make direct threats, like if you don't do this, I'll deport you, that kind of thing. So it's terrifying to be in that position. From the outside, we can look and go, I'm sure he'll be okay. I mean, she just needs some time to, you know, she'll adjust, she'll figure it out. You know, she seems nice enough, she's harmless. You can't know that when you are the victim of stalking. Even if you think, well, you know, it's probably a 3 to 5% chance that she's going to blow her top and do something horrific that's going to ruin my life. And to us looking at that, well, it's only a 5% chance. That's pretty unlikely. But if you're in the victim's shoes, you do not want to live day to day by a 5% chance of something horribly going wrong in your life because someone is targeting you. So I know some of you understand that out there, and because I've actually communicated with you about how you've been a victim of stalking, and it is terrifying. So of the things we've seen on the show to be concerned about, this one is definitely towards the top.
Anything to do with you, I'm tired of it.
Mohamed.
Don't understand? You don't get it?
Mohamed,
What?
I gave you the opportunity in Ohio to talk, so you can return the favor and talk to me.
Yikes. I mean, so this is actually the voice that he is probably talking about. They are getting a divorce, that he has not lived with her for a long time. He is not telling her he hasn't told her where he's been living for a long time. He has said, we are done. I'm never going to be with you ever again. They decided last time that they were going to get divorced and just be friends. And she is, I followed you here. I chased you here. You will talk with me. Now, of course, everyone knows what that quote unquote talk is going to involve. It's going to be her pressuring him to get back together with her. And yikes, this behavior is frightening. He should be afraid. He should file a police report.
Mohamed, what was the promise that you made in Ohio before you left Ohio?
I'm asking you nicely. Okay, so yeah, the promise was that they would be friends. Friends don't stalk friends. Friends don't pressure friends. Friends don't blow up each other's phones all day long, pressuring them to talk. That's not what friends do. So if anyone, she broke that contract well before he did.
Asking you nicely.
Nicely for what? What do you want from me? What?
And if he wasn't under her thumb legally and immigration-wise, he would just hang up on her probably, but he can't. And because she holds all the cards legally, or at least she might be holding all the cards. And that risk is so strong that he cannot do what he wants to do, which is to tell her to F off and hang up the phone, which he should be able to do, but he can't because she is holding something over his head, which is, just incredibly troubling.
I want to meet face to face.
I have to say, I have seen this many, many times where, regardless of gender, the person in Danielle's position will be, it's almost like they're only seeing one step ahead. They're not thinking of the bigger picture because they're so dominated by a feeling of wanting to be with someone and a feeling of entitlement and a feeling of righteousness or something. And so if we looked at Danielle and say, okay, Danielle, let's say that you managed to force him to talk with you. Then what? What's the plan? Well, I want to talk. Okay, talk about what? Well, he promised to be my friend. Okay, so you're going to talk about him being a friend. Yeah, I want to talk with him about being a friend. Okay, let's say he says he doesn't want to be a friend. Then what? Well, that's going to piss me off. Yeah, it hurts your feelings. But then what? Well, then he needs to understand that he needs to be my friend. No, Danielle. You can't force someone to be your friend. He doesn't want to be with you, and I know you're sad, but it's over, and you don't deserve someone else's loyalty. You can't. You're not entitled to those things. You can't just demand those. You can't demand a husband. So I get it. You want to be with him, and you long for. So, and then maybe she would understand. I don't know though. She seems to have difficulty thinking sometimes. But what's the point, Danielle? Yeah, you could probably force him to meet up with you, but then what? What's the point? Hey, deserving listeners, as y'all know, I am constantly recommending that people go to therapy. We all need therapy from time to time. Well, one of the options available that is definitely worth checking out is BetterHelp. If you're looking for a therapist, I would give it a try by going to betterhelp.com/Kirk. Make sure you use the promo code Kirk because you get 10% off your first month, and it really helps us out. As you watch these videos, I know many of you have been motivated to find your own therapist, which is great because you deserve it. And I know also that it can be hard to find a good fit, find the right one for you. Well, one of the options available in terms of your shopping is to go to betterhelp.com/Kirk. I've been told you can start communicating with your therapist in under 24 hours. You can message your counselor at any time. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. I've also been told that it's often less expensive than in-person therapy, and you should know that this service is available to clients worldwide. So go to betterhelp.com/Kirk to get 10% off your first month today.
If you want to come to my place, I will talk to you, but it's going to be for the last time.
We will never ever talk anymore. This is the last time.
And if I was him, or if I was advising him, I would say, I don't know if you should do that, because if you give in to this, it's just going to continue. The pattern has been illuminated. She will not give up. And there are a number of strategies that we call this the gray rock strategies, and I've talked about it before, that you want to become a gray rock to the Danielles of the world. It doesn't always work, of course, but it is a strategy. Because for the Mohammeds of the world, you think you're dealing with someone who is thinking normally, who has a normal way of processing their emotions and entitlement. But you're not dealing with someone like that. Because if you're dealing with someone with a normal sense of entitlement, you say, okay, fine, I'll give in this one time for you, one last time, for old time's sake, I'll get together with you, but that will be the last time. And then Danielle will say, okay, fine, I'll be the last time. And a normal person might hold to that, or at least they'll think about that the next time they have an urge to invade and stalk the other person. But Danielle has shown that she's way beyond the norm when it comes to entitlement and stalking behaviors and fantasies. And to allow her to come to his house, particularly come to his house, it just might prolong the inevitable, because often what is inevitable is you have to either put up a massive wall that is like strangely firm, like a legal wall, and every time she calls, you have a lawyer call her or a friend or something, some sort of extreme behavior in that way. Or you have to become a gray rock, and this is the gray rock method. I don't know who coined it, but I remember first hearing about it about 20 years ago. And the method involves, so the idea is that for the Danielles of the world, they are attracted to you because you're this big shiny object in their life, and they're not seeing you, they're seeing what you represent. They have this fantasy about you. It's very shiny and they're attracted to it. But if you become a gray rock, meaning that you become a boring rock among all the other gray rocks, then they'll divert their attention somewhere else and likely abuse and stalk someone else, by the way. So it's a self-preservation move, and you have to strategize about how to do that. You might stop returning their calls, or when you do talk to them, you just become extremely boring. You try to get rid of all your social media pictures, or you at least block them, or whatever it is. But you want to become either inaccessible so the entitled stalker doesn't get triggered and they move on to someone else, or you're just so boring to them that it's not enticing anymore. It doesn't always work, but it is a strategy. So if I were his friend, I would say, I wouldn't let her over to your house, because this isn't where it ends. This probably ends with you drawing an extremely firm boundary. Now, the problem is he's saying, I can't draw a firm boundary because she'll take action to get me deported, and I don't want that to happen. So it's definitely a conundrum for him.
Tonight, if you text me, you call me, if you contact me like any way, I will just go and try to get restraining order against you.
I'm warning you.
Mohamed, don't warn me and don't threaten me.
We'll talk about it if you come tonight.
Yeah, that's troubling. So I get where he's coming from. He's like, okay, one last time, one favored her, and then that's it. And so if you do that, then I'll get a restraining order. I think he means no contact order. I don't know Florida law, but anyway. So then she says, don't threaten me. So yeah, I don't see this ending things.
Oh, see. Oh, he can sit there and threaten me.
Because you're stalking him. You are stalking him. He did not want you to know where he lives. You figured it out. And you even had this, I don't know if I showed this clip, you had this nefarious tone in your voice, like, ha ha ha, Mohamed, you didn't want me to know where you lived, and I figured it out, ha ha ha, I'm gonna get you. That's why he is threatening you. With legal action, by the way, that is justified because the law supports victims of stalking. So that's why he's doing it, Danielle. Now, Danielle, I get it. You're sad. You feel hurt. You feel rejected. 100%. That does not justify abusive stalking behavior. Not okay.
To God, the police are getting a restraining order and telling me this is the last time he'll talk to me. I feel like he lied in Ohio.
Maybe he lied. It's quite possible. I wouldn't doubt, or I wouldn't be surprised if when he said, let's be friends, he was like, I don't want to be friends. Now, it seemed like maybe there's a possibility he thought, well, if we could be nice to each other, yeah, I don't mind being friends on social media. You live in Ohio, I live in Florida. It's not like we're going to see each other very often. So maybe there was a little bit there. But even if he did lie, it's like that doesn't justify stalking. But I want to say stalking behavior comes from this. So this actually might be helpful for everyone to understand, because when we see stalking, it's often in the media perpetrated by men, and I'm imagining that the research shows that a majority of stalkers are men stalking women. But there's a pretty good pretty good percentage of, sizable minority of women who are stalking. But anyway, when you look at stalkers, the way people will talk about them is, a malignant narcissist, psychopath, and certainly they can be. But in my experience, more often than not, this is what is underpinning that stalking behavior, is tremendous sadness and loss and grief, a complete inability to deal with it, and a learned response, maybe because that's how their family was, or just from society or something, to feel entitled and to chase, and to not really check in with, is this okay, and how does the other person feel about this, and a proneness to fantasy. So when you hear about a man stalking a woman, it's underneath it, I've always found this to be there. Instead of the way people talk about it, which is that it's all about power and he's just trying to control her. And certainly from the surface, it looks that way. You could certainly say that about Danielle. She just wants to control him. She wants to possess him. She doesn't care about his feelings. Yeah, certainly from the surface. But it's not because she lacks empathy. It's not because she wants generally to control other people. It's because she is suffering so greatly underneath. Now, that does not justify it, and I have no sympathy for people who perpetrate this on other people. I have sympathy for these feelings. I have no sympathy for abusive stalking behavior. So the reason why I want to point this out is because when we understand why people stalk, then we can actually address it and maybe even cut it off at the pass earlier on. Maybe when they're 16, when they exhibit this kind of behavior, we don't have to wait till later on. And because society often will just bifurcate. It's like, oh, you're an evil person. There's no logical reason why you're evil, and that's why you're evil. Instead of recognizing almost all quote unquote evil behavior, not all, comes from great suffering and an inability to deal with it. All right. Well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.